Bum bum bottom 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 bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bum bottom bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bum bottom bum bottom bum bum bottom ba da 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 ba da
You are now in session with the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast. I'm Lisa Gullickson.
I'm Brad Gullickson.
And each month we evaluate a different iconic romance within the four-color realm. In this episode, we're serving up an extra large pizza pie with a stuffed crust filled with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle goodness. First, we sit down with Kevin Eastman for a chat about the new Mutant Mayhem adaptation. Then we invite you to the New York Comic-Con, presenting our Saturday IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles panel in full, which includes special guest Jeff Rowe, the Mutant Mayhem director.
I was actually a little nervous that we weren't going to be able to present the audio from our New York Comic-Con panel, but God bless those Zoom recorders. It sounds pretty darn good.
For podcasters, Brad and I are like two of the least technologically capable individuals. I know a lot of podcasters like get into gear and all of that stuff, but we've been using the same soundboard and mics for like a decade.
Yep.
We just like, they're like old faithful. But one thing we have learned is to create backups upon backups upon backups, because somebody from Repop did record the IDW panel from their end.
It was a really nice technician who was very concerned about the levels, and you're actually going to hear him in the audio shout from the back at me to speak up, or to speak into the microphone. So there is a properly recorded audio of this panel. We just never got access to it. But we have our backup, which was the Zoom recorder, and honestly, I think it sounds pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. And that white noise contributes to the con feel, the overall experience.
That's ambiance, baby. Also, like, you might hear a little Shuffles McGee, because we were operating like a laptop, a clicker, and then our Zoom microphone was like on our podium. So you're going to hear us crystal clear, but you might hear us tapping around.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
It was so fun.
It's great content. It's a fabulous panel. It's a jam-packed panel. It was an hour long, and we had Kevin Eastman, Tom Waltz, Gavin Smith, Vincenzo Federici, Ben Bishop, Sarah Myer, the Escorza brothers, their translator, and then at the very end, special guest Jeff Rowe, the director of Mutant Mayhem.
Brad just did that off the dome, and all that's in the back of my mind is that's not the order they were sitting in. But
no, it's not. And I know the order was important to you.
It is singed into my memory because I was the one who was like, I am a control freak. I need them to sit in the order that I anticipate. So like before the panel, like my classroom teacher mode like clicked in, and I'm like, okay, friends, we're doing assigned seats. And I went down and was like, Kevin, you're here. Tom, you're here.
You know, this panel was not the first panel we've ever moderated. It's not the first panel that we've ever been a part of. We were actually on another panel at New York Comic Con, but this one felt like it had the highest stakes. You know, Nickelodeon was involved, Paramount was involved. We had meetings beforehand, Zoom calls beforehand, and we built it up in our minds into this gargantuan task. And because we had all these slides and all this exclusive art that we had to go over, all these release dates that we had to hit, Lisa and I could not just wing it.
Thank God for Greg Katzman. He is the senior PR guy over at IDW. He created this opportunity for us, and he made it his mission to help us noobs feel prepared to do this. He like held our hand through the whole thing. Another thing we were contending with like was our own expectations, because we love Comic-Cons. We love panels.
We love the Ninja Turtles.
And we've been to a ton of panels, and we know what we like at a panel. We wanted something high energy. We wanted something that was like celebratory, and we wanted to make sure that every single individual on the panel felt seen and heard and appreciated.
When Lisa said, I think we should write a script, I went, I think you're right. because normally I would resist such a thing because I am the type of, interviewer, panelist who wants to go in there with like a vague idea of what they want to ask and then just go wherever the conversation goes. And that's not Lisa's strategy. Lisa always has, 20 questions for 20 minutes of interview time. And I think between the two of us, we make for a great, creator corner conversation, which is how we approached our one-on-one or our two-on-one with Kevin Eastman. But when you have 10 people on a panel and 27 slides to get through, and you have to hit minute marks, right? Because like Jeff Rowe's coming in at the last 15 minutes. So that means like, a certain set of questions have to be 15 minutes each. Like, you can't wing that. You got to go with Lisa's script.
I have a very real fear of the blank, where you're standing up in front of a lot of people and all of a sudden you have nothing to say and you just start grasping for something inane. Brad, one of your gifts is that you never run short of ideas. You know what I mean? You always have somewhere to go.
Lisa.
But I think that is one of the things that makes you kind of resistant to a script is you don't like the idea of being obligated to say what is on it.
It's part of my rebel tendencies.
Yeah. And for me, like I go like my script is my parachute. I do still improvise all of the time where I go like, okay, this question, they said this thing, this question isn't appropriate anymore. Or maybe I could spin it this way or that way. So like to me, the script is there to rescue me. But if I don't need it, then I don't use it.
And what we found was because we marked out time on the script,
Which was my idea.
which was Lisa's brilliant idea, we knew if we were going too fast or too slow during the course of the panel. And when we were writing that script, we went home. We left the con early on Friday, and we spent about 4 hours working on the script. And when we were done with the script, we got done around midnight. When we got done with it, Lisa said, "This is way too long. This is too much information. These are too many questions. These are too many slides." And we were like, "Oh gosh, we'll just see. Like, we'll have to cut questions. We can do that. We can flip through slides quickly if we need to." But then on the day when we start the panel off, and you'll hear this, we actually get through our first round of slides far quicker than we thought we were going to. So then it became a moment where it's like, oh, we do need to improv. We do need to come up with some extra questions on the spot.
And we avoided talking over each other for the most part, I think, by using our tried and true tap system. So regular listeners probably have already heard us describe this, but when we are on a Zoom call with a creator, we're both sitting in front of the same camera. So when we want to take turns to speak underneath the table, we tap each other. So like 2 taps means I have something to say. Poke means you please say something. And so we did that. I have no idea how it looked from the audience.
I don't think you could tell.
Because it was behind a podium.
And that podium was wide.
Yeah. But a lot of the skills we've built just sitting in our little like love nest actually applied to doing a panel, which might seem obvious to you, but it was a surprise to us.
And halfway through the panel, I knew it was going well, and I was, relieved and thrilled. It was an exhilarating experience. This is absolutely my favorite panel that we've ever done at any kind of con, and I would like to do more panels like this one.
Yes, please.
So if you are an artist or a publisher or a publicist listening to this episode, and you are looking for moderators, call Comic Book Couples Counseling as soon as possible. We're at most cons, so just see if we're going to a con, and we'll help you out.
We put a ton of effort into this panel, and we're so grateful that we took the time because it turned out really well, and we're totally exhilarated with how it went. And of course, we're going to publish it in the podcast feed, even if the only recording we have is from our handheld Zoom recorder.
But the audio quality is listenable. It's better than listenable. It's good. It's just not as good as it would be if we were recording directly from the board. And it's such a good time to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. That's how we kick off this panel. You have a really rad ongoing series that is reaching a milestone with 150. We're on the road to 150, the conclusion of Sophie Campbell's run. And we have Saturday Morning Adventures. We have so many crossovers. The Stranger Things crossover, the Street Fighter crossover. Both are really rad. We have The Last Ronin 2 coming up in February. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem just came out. It's streaming on Paramount Plus. The Art of book is also out right now. We picked it up. It's gorgeous. We talk about that with Jeff Rowe on the panel. Highly recommend it.
We have clearly drank the ooze. We are like going at our turtle love with a completist mentality. We are reading all of it. We are watching all of it. But if it's not all to your taste, if you just love your Saturday morning cartoons or you just love the grittier turtle stuff, there is a turtle story out there for you specifically.
What's so cool about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is that almost from the very beginning, reinvention was baked into its DNA. You know, you had the Mirage comics from Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. They were turned into toys and cartoons. They were then turned into a movie. And each time it went into another medium, something was added. Like a little bit of new creativity was injected into the idea of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then that just kept going since 1984, you know, with the next round of comics, with the Archie books, with the next round of movies, with the next round of cartoons, with IDW.
About a week before Comic-Con, we had the opportunity to talk Mutant Mayhem with Kevin Eastman, and that idea and spirit of reinvention is where we start our conversation with him. And you can hear that theme carries all the way through to our panel.
Yeah, and Mutant Mayhem, right, does a lot of new stuff with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it leaves them in a really interesting place. And if you have not watched the movie, you probably want to do so before you listen to our chat with Kevin Eastman, because we ask him about Mutant Mayhem's ending directly,
right?
Because it's such a departure from what we've gotten before, and we get to hear how he initially reacted to it and what he thinks about it today. So the structure for the rest of this episode is this. First, we will talk to Kevin Eastman 2-on-1 talking about Mutant Mayhem, and then that will lead directly into our panel at New York Comic Con with all those rad people. But before we can even get to that, we have to talk about our new segment,
Referrals.
Sponsored by Omnibus. And Omnibus, for those that don't know, is a modern digital comic book store and reader app carrying your favorite single issues, volumes, and omnibuses all day and date. Just like your local comic book store, you pay per book, but digital.
Their focus is on building an excellent customer shopping and reading experience and using novel discovery features to help fans find their new next favorite book. They feature top-tier content and already have many of the top publishers in comics today.
In the spirit of helping people find their next new favorite book, we have our referrals segment. The idea is to give our counselees, that's you guys, further reading on the themes of the episode. Think of it as us sending you to specialists to further your healing journey through comic books. I don't know about you, Lisa, but this referral segment for me, finding that right comic to pair with Ninja Turtles, was kind of difficult because I had so many options, and I was fighting so hard not to do a referral about Usagi Yojimbo because we talk about Usagi Yojimbo all the time right now, and I want to do it, but I'm not going to refer it, even though this is kind of like a referral right here.
Though Usagi Yojimbo is totally on Omnibus. Just look under Dark Horse.
Ice and Snow #1 is one of my favorite recent Usagi books. It's so good.
Slipping a little bonus.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm a cheater.
Just give us your tried and true. What is your real referral?
No, you go first.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, my referral, they're green, they're mean, they have a sense of fraternity that bonds them, and they feel responsible for each other. They are the Orcs in Space from Oni Press.
When you say Orcs in Space, are you hearing it the same way that I am?
As Pigs in Space?
Yeah,
Yes, 100%.
Pigs in Space, Orcs in Space. Great pick.
Why, thank you. You know how much I love this book. We've had writer Michael Tanner and artist Francois Vigneault on the pod in our Patreon feed, I think.
We have, yes. And we appear as orcs in the last issue of the book, which is my personal Twitter profile pic.
And I have had my orc as my profile pic as well, but I have since commissioned other art that makes me way prettier than an orc. And I'm vain, first and foremost. But how, for me, Orcs in Space relates to the Ninja Turtles is that Gore, Kravis, and Mongtar all have these distinct personalities that you would think would make them clash, but because they have become this kind of isolated, found family, they have found a way to continue to function despite their like varying differences in principles and stuff.
Imagine the Enterprise landing in Middle Earth and then being overrun by orcs, and then those orcs steal the Enterprise and go off and cause chaos in space. And that's the basic premise of the book.
You don't have to imagine it because you can read it. It's called Orcs in Space. And the first volume centers around Kravis, who always felt like an outsider amongst the orcs. He was not so much into the smashy violent stuff. And once he's on this ship, he befriends Donna, who is the AI. And to me, it's really a story about finding yourself through others, like by expanding your horizons and expanding your social group, you can truly find yourself. And it's just a really beautiful story.
I love that pick, and I love the reasoning behind that pick. For my referral, I did not necessarily think about the themes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and what connected them. I went with something that was a little bit more just radical and of the era of the original Turtles, or close to the era of the original Ninja Turtles. I'm picking Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot by Frank Miller and Jeff Darrow. A new edition has just come out from Dark Horse Comics and is available on Omnibus. And, you know, Frank Miller obviously was a huge influence on Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. Ninja Turtles spins directly out of his Daredevil run. And it just felt fitting to refer something back to Frank Miller.
Like a full circle moment.
Absolutely. And Jeff Darrow, his art is unlike anybody else on the planet. If you're a Matrix fan, you definitely know his name, but he's also the cartoonist behind Shaolin Cowboy and Hard Boiled, also with Frank Miller. But Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot is just a fun monster comic. It is absolutely radical. It is totally tubular. It is hyper detailed. It is about this giant reptile destroying Tokyo, and Rusty the Boy Robot, who is basically an Astro Boy stand-in, fails to defend Tokyo, so they send in the Big Guy, this mech suit. And the Big Guy and Rusty team up to take down this terror, and it's just a glorious sit. You know, you look at this comic, you read it, but then you just hang out on these pages, and it's just so engrossing. You want to read this one slowly. You want to look at every corner of every panel.
Which you can totally do on Omnibus. You just pinch and zoom. You can get into all those nooks and crannies.
And you can do the same thing for Orcs in Space, too. Both are available on Omnibus right now. There are links in the show notes to both of these referrals. Please give them a look. And go hang out on the Omnibus shop. There is so much going on over there right now. A bunch of really rad cartoonists and creators and publishers can be found there. We're having a great time with it ourselves.
It's not a subscription, so you can just go in there, browse, and then just leave.
Like we said, walk in as if it was a comic book store.
Referrals.
And on that beautiful note, I think we need to get to our conversation with Kevin Eastman, talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem and the history of reinvention that's baked into the DNA of the franchise, which will roll right into our New York Comic Con panel, TMNT, the next mutation of turtle power from IDW Publishing. Kevin, welcome back to Comic Book Couples Counseling. Hello.
So nice to be here with you guys again. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, our pleasure. Congratulations on an incredible year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, Last Ronin 2 getting announced. Lisa and I have been in a massive deep dive of Ninja Turtle mania this past year. And one of the things that we really have been contemplating is how reimagining, adaptation, that is baked into the DNA of this brand, of these characters. When you reflect back on your long path with the Ninja Turtles, what contributions from other collaborators have been additive to the Ninja Turtle idea, do you think?
Well, there's quite a few, and I think anything that we've done with the Turtles isn't that kind of multiverse approach and different timelines and different periods. It's something that was in our DNA growing up. Reading all kinds of Marvel and DC comics and things where you think like, one time how many different versions of Peter Parker's Spider-Man were there, different age levels and things. And so when we were lucky enough to have not only the black and white comic, and that evolved into the much younger kid show, and then I feel like the movie was somewhere in the middle. It was kind of like we had these universes and we were pulling from creative influences, not only from past, but also some of the people we were working with. The writers and the artists that brought ideas to bear in the Turtles cartoon series were fantastic. We expanded the universe, not only for toys, but we went into the Archie comics, and again, we had the Mutanimals that were added. There was so many different aspects that built this universe off the foundation that Peter and I originally constructed. It was definitely influential, and definitely certainly. When I look at, like, say, the IDW universe or even the 2012 series, some of the more recent series, which seem to me picked from multiple Turtle universes to build a new universe to tell stories from. So all those characters are brought back in one form or another, some very original, some reinvented, and also expanded on those ideas. So yeah, it's very timely, and not only for pop culture references and things like that, but it's definitely, we pulled ideas from everywhere for all things Turtles, and that really was the fun stuff.
And was that something you were always comfortable with, or have you had to get comfortable with that idea of people contributing new ideas to the Turtles?
Well, again, reflecting back to what's cool about it is reflecting back to, say, I was a huge fan of Daredevil growing up, the Marvel Universe or X-Men or numerous other characters and Batman, that you saw different creative teams bring different ideas and different aspects to that character. Some you liked more, some you liked less, some were sillier, some were more intense, more inventive. And so the formula of different people bringing their ideas to a more, say, a central character wasn't a new thing. So we weren't like, inventing the wheel or anything like that. So when we would have different people approach us with an idea for a turtle story, a great example is the again, the cartoon series, when David Wise and Patty Howarth came in and they said, well, we're writing for a much younger audience, but we like parts of this idea and parts of this idea, and we're going to bring in some of our own ideas here and sort of meld this into this blender and take them out that way. So it wasn't jarring at all, and we had full approval over all that stuff. Not only the comic books, when creators brought fresh ideas and we approved them to be incorporated into the Mirage Studios storyline, but the things like the cartoon series, which was much more expansive as well. So it's fun. Yeah.
The last time you were on with us, you described your career like the Ninja Turtles were your car, but it was the fans who held the roadmap. You didn't know how long and how far that was going to go. And I wonder, like, are you ever nostalgic for those no map years where you were kind of like unobserved and you had no path before you? Or was the dream always to strike gold with beloved characters and
a beloved fan base?
Yeah, and letting that kind of guide your career.
Well, it was a little bit more simple, and maybe even I want to say, we're trying to find the right simple and naive, maybe, because it was, the original purpose of the dream, the original pursuit of the dream was just to, in fact, write and draw and tell stories. We were huge, both Peter and I were huge fans of Jack Kirby, to name just one of many that we had as influences. And it wasn't like what we loved about the work was not that they created ideas specifically for the fans, but there was an element to that. But they created popular ideas that they wanted to read, so the stories were very interesting to them, I think, as well as, they wanted to keep their job. And for us, we went in a little bit more naive, and with those stories, it was just, we were a fan first, and so we would sort of look at the other side of the counter, so to speak, in a comic store, or the other side of the rack, and go, well, this is what we'd like to read, and we'll put that into our story, and if it works, we're writing to our kind. And so that was the guiding principle. And as you move further into your career and further into storytelling, you really have to be careful not to pander to the fans. And I mean that in a very polite sense, is that, again, putting myself as one of them, you want to write stories that work for you as a fan and hope it resonates with them. And I always say, fans will decide, what's cool and what's not cool, what they're going to read and what they're going to not read. And when they've had enough, suddenly, they've had enough turtles and they're moving on to something else. And we were lucky to have them, for the time that we did. So it's a bit of a knife's edge, even, going through the IDW universe, Tom and I never said, hey, let's kill off a character because we think it might sell more comics. Let's do something here because we think it's this. We planned our stories and our story arcs as events that were exciting, that, if we were buying these books, these are the kinds of things we'd like to read. And you got to kind of let that guide you as a, or you get lost in the woods, like,
I love the way that you talk about your career as luck, and following your heart is very much part of your process.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it reminds me of how important it is to just kind of submit to like the good things that are happening in your life. Has that always been part of your practice, or was it something that you had to learn, this idea of submitting to the journey of the Ninja Turtles?
Well, it's you have this when you're younger, and you're probably I don't use the word naive again, but it's like when you're younger and you're pursuing an idea or dream or ideals and things that you want to do. You think you think you're in more control than you are sometimes, and to a certain extent you are, for dedicating the time to not go out with your friends and stay home and draw, or you've got to work, just balancing this life and saving that time for that creative time. But then there's just a series of happy accidents, and and I think, like, the things that had to happen for me to meet Peter Laird, it's 1 in a million. It's like winning the lottery, and that, if I didn't take the bus on that day, I didn't find that magazine on the floor, and I didn't go then to that office to try to sell a cartoon to them that they introduced me to, it was just one of those things like, wait, what? Who was in control of that situation? Was it me that picked up the magazine and went there? Yes, to a certain extent, but who, and so it gets really meta. So you do have to come up with a balance of rolling with it, and then but keep the vision and keep the purpose and keep the dream alive. So it's quite a fascinating thing when you stop and think about it.
Last question before we get out of here. I'm going to jump topics a little bit, going back to Mutant Mayhem and going directly to the ending of that film. It takes the Turtles in a direction that is very new for them.
Almost runs contrary to kind of one of the standing things of, like, they're supposed to be in the shadows, right?
Right. And I'd like to know what your initial reaction was to that, and if it's evolved at all.
Yes, it definitely has evolved in that. I feel like because of even things like so some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, which again, I use them as mysterious superheroes, and stay in the shadows. You don't know their identities and this and that. When, like, with Tom Holland's version of Peter Parker becomes known and becomes a thing, and so I think you have more of a fan acceptance for that kind of concept, like mutants in the real world, with X-Men movies, with different kinds of things. So I think us wanting to keep the Turtles to that side of them, hidden and ninjas, and this aspect was very guarded for a long time, but I got more comfortable with it as I saw how it could work out there. And so, although I think it was a stretched to a certain extent. The timeliness of it being such a wonderfully produced animated movie, such colorful characters, such great humor and reflective of the times and very contemporary in the attitudes and approach. It wasn't one of those moments. I was actually more disturbed by Splinter and Scumbug kissing than I was the Turtles going to school.
Absolutely, sure.
So it was one of those things that it didn't feel like, oh, you blew it, that's a step too far, because that was really the heart and soul of the movie, wanting to be accepted. And that's I think when you think of teenagers and all of us looking to find that way, and even as adults finding that place in that space and finding that finding your place in the world. It was a theme throughout the movie, so it wasn't jarring, surprise, just kind of thrown in there kind of thing. So I thought it was, and I'm curious to see where it goes. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that movie very, very much. Jeff Rowe, as a director, grew up as a fan of Turtles, and what he brought to it was just a great sensibility and craftsmanship and humor. Of course, add the amazing Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. The whole team was just fantastic. I'm so proud of that film.
Yeah, we loved it as well. And we're really excited about where the Turtles are right now, and their future looks bright. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
What a thrill.
What a thrill. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Always a pleasure. You have a great day. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cowabunga.
Yeah, wasn't that nice?
Cowabunga indeed.
So we got to roll right into our New York Comic Con panel, and I want to set it up with the creators in the right positions, Lisa.
Let's see if we can do it.
As they are seated. So it was Brad and Lisa
That's correct.
at the podium, then Kevin Eastman, Tom Waltz, Gavin Smith, Vincenzo Federici, Sarah Myer, Ben Bishop, the Escorza brothers and their translator, and then Jeff Rowe coming in the last 15 minutes of this panel.
That is correct.
I was looking at a photograph.
He totally was. I was wondering if he was going to give it up. Also, the Escorza brothers weren't late. We started early at the insistence of the panelists and the room. So yes. I don't want to say that they are late individuals. We don't know. They were on time.
They arrived like rock stars.
Appropriate.
Yeah. So, okay, that's the panel. Let's just enjoy it. Let's just return to New York Comic Con right now. Hello, everybody.
Cowabunga, everyone. Who is here to talk Turtles today? I'm Lisa Gullickson, and I am a Mikey.
I'm Brad Gullickson, and I think of myself as a Donnie, but I'm afraid I'm a Raph.
We all are deep down inside. We have those days. And we're from the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast, and we're just like you. We're big turtle nerds. And we could not be more thrilled to moderate the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the next mutation of turtle power from IDW Publishing, and we've got ourselves a stacked panel today.
Woo! So let's keep that applause going for Kevin Eastman.
Tom Waltz.
Gavin Smith.
Vincenzo Federici.
Sarah Myer. And it looks like...
Here comes the Escorza brothers.
And we've got Ben Bishop all the way down there, too.
There is literally no better time to be a Ninja Turtles fan. There is literally a story for every person. So, Kevin, how does it feel to look down this panel and look at all of these incredible collaborators working on what you and Peter Laird started nearly 40 years ago?
It's beyond amazing. It's as I think back of when Peter and I came up with the idea for the first issue. We did it as a complete story because we never thought there'd be a second issue. And that was coming up on 40 years. Next year, 40 years old, and you know whose fault it is? You guys.
Yeah.
The love and support you've given us over the years. But what's so great about sitting at this table with all these incredible writers, artists, creators, people that have helped build the Turtle universe into so many different places Peter and I never could have imagined, and we've gone on so many wonderful journeys together and told so many stories. Even when I was like, there just can't be any stories left to tell, and then I started working with this guy, Tom Waltz, who's one of the few writers in the entire industry of comics who actually wrote 100 issues in a row. Literally. So Tom and I got through working all those issues together, and then what's that other thing? Was it, last Ronin.
Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Hold your horses. Hold your horses.
So we got the whole last Ronin team, and you know, like you said, it's a great time to be a fan of all things Turtles, because you know, things like Mutant Mayhem, the ongoing series, last Ronin. It's just 40 years, man. You're full. Thank you.
I'm not even 40 years old yet.
So we have a lot to celebrate today, and we're going to kick things off talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 144 on sale October 18th.
It's coming to us from Sophie Campbell, Gavin Smith, Rhonda Pattison, and Russ Wooten.
So we have some exclusive preview pages here from the issue.
So many.
You might want to get a camera out and snap some photos of them. Gavin, what are we seeing here? What do we got to get excited about with this issue?
So, I don't know, you guys hear me all right? Okay. So, we're starting off with, leading off from 143, most of the gang has been caught in the night terrorist dream, or like a, I guess a nightmare sequence, and Donnie is seeing another future vision of Armageddon coming. And we've got Dr. Barlow mutating into, I guess, 2 out of 3 of his final forms coming up here. Like you see at the bottom left here is his final form, which when Sophie and I were talking that over, just gave me this bonkers design, and I just got so excited to be able to draw this. And so Sophie, this is the first time I've ever worked with a writer who's also an artist, so the way we communicate is really simple, really easy, and we just can jam on ideas together. So when she presented this to me, we just went back and forth with like little extra arms and limbs and the skull, flesh, dragon scale stuff, and it was just a blast. And then we also see Mushroom in control of Dr. Barlow with the dragon scale stuff. There's some really crazy stuff happening in this issue. It's awesome. And also, I think this issue is the first time outside of a cover that all 6 turtles are together.
Yes.
Oh.
All of that brings us to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 145, out November 8th, which puts us on the road to 150, which will be the conclusion of Sophie Campbell's epic run on the series. And Tom and Kevin, could you talk about a little bit more about what it's like to work with Sophie Campbell and what it means to get to 150?
You know, it's funny, when I was finishing up 100 and they told me Sophie would be taking over with 101, I kind of fanboyed out because I got to work with Sophie during my run. One of my favorite parts of that was the Northampton arc. But Sophie, not only is a collaborator, she's become a very good friend of mine. And the amazing thing about Sophie, I'll say this, no idea is too crazy for Sophie. So, they're never too crazy. She's the only one we have to say, come back, Sophie, come back. That's a little too wild. But the thing is that it was just amazing to watch her work for those 50 issues, not only as I said, like as a fan, but as a friend and a collaborator. And I didn't think she could top a lot of the stuff she was doing, and then I got to see the proposal for these last 5 issues, and it's pretty dang amazing what's coming. The stuff that she's doing with Gavin and Vincenzo, I think is going to really blow people away, and I think it's a fitting end cap to everything she's done for the 50 issues she's been on. And you know, Kevin mentioned about me writing 100 issues, but then to have somebody come in and then follow up and write 50 issues is, to me, just equally amazing. And that's one of the things about this book. I think that's helped this longevity and its success is we've been able to keep a core team together. Because like I said, Sophie worked on this book before she was the writer. She did some stories, she did some art, and it was just a smooth transition in to taking over the series. And I'm really excited for everybody to see where she's going with this.
Well, let's see a little bit of that. We've got some exclusive preview pages from this issue. Vincenzo, it looks like you're going to be working a lot with Donatello. Tell us about it.
Donatello is the best turtle.
Yes, yes.
Vinny's a Donnie.
When the guys told me that I had to work on this run, I was like, okay, wow. They told me he's a Donnie based run, and I was, oh, okay. I lost totally my mind. After 2 days, I was able to reply to the mail and say, okay, yes, I'm in. And for me, it's amazing because Don is my favorite turtle, and this, in the Armageddon game series, I had the opportunity to work on him just in the last 2 or 3 issues. So when I had the opportunity to work on a full run based on him, it was incredible. And then I had the opportunity to draw some variations on the other turtles, because we are in the future, in the farthest future. So you will see different kind of turtles, different futures for them. And it's incredible because the Sophie script is very easy to read, because she tell you exactly what she wants to see. And we worked together on some character designs, and as Gavin said, it's very easy when the writer is also an artist. But when Sophie sent me her character, I hate her too much, because they are incredible, and I hate my stuff. I want to...
Extra pressure.
Too much pressure. It's a really cool run.
Oh, yeah. So, out now, right now, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Halloween special. Eric Burnham, Sarah Myer, Dan Schoening, Luis Antonio Delgado, Ed Dukeshire. Oh my goodness. Preview pages. We've got Dan on the left there, Sarah on the right.
Sarah, we have been loving those last 2 pages are Sarah's, and we have been loving your colors, but this is your debut as the interior artist. So what's it like drawing the Ninja Turtles, because we know your fandom runs deep?
Yes. So yeah, previously to this issue that you're seeing a preview from right here, I had been a colorist for Saturday Morning Adventures and TMNT versus Street Fighter, sorry. But I've been a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since I was a really, really little kid in the late 80s. And it's pretty much pervaded my subconscious, you know. It's been such a dream come true to work on IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, but to now be able to draw those 87 turtles that I love personally so much has been really fun. And I love kind of, in a way, it's like a wish fulfillment, because I knew growing up probably that I wanted to sort of do voice acting, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to ever play one of the turtles, you know what I mean? So in a way, when you draw a comic, or when you're an animator, or when you're just drawing anything, you know, really, you are very much acting as the character. So when the script says something like, you know, Raph is annoyed and he says this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's my chance to think about how Rob Paulson sounded, but then I'm literally, while I'm drawing it, I'm making the facial expression, I'm thinking about like how I would want Raph to look if it was an animated sequence and he was saying that line. etc. So it's been incredible. It's so much fun.
And round of applause.
Yes.
You'll be back at it for issue 6 coming out on October 26th, Chrome Dome.
Ooh. And we have an exclusive look at some of your process pages. And here we see all of that nuance you capture in those expressions. Can you give us a little taste of that inner monologue, inner dialogue in the turtles' brains?
I ranted to Brad and Lisa yesterday. This is partly why they're asking me this question. So I'm going to try my best to sort of repeat some of the lunacy that I...
You can surprise us. We're open to surprises.
Okay, so like I said, I'm an obsessive fan of the 1987 Fred Wolf, Murakami Swenson, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. And upon rewatching it many, many times, I've noticed that there's certain nuances to their personalities that sometimes people might not realize are there if they're just going on what they vaguely remember from years and years ago. So I encourage you to please rewatch it. And you'll see that, for example, like there's a lot of sort of like Mikey's very innocent, so whenever I have to draw let me just give an example. If the script calls for all 4 turtles are worried, Michelangelo looking worried is not the same as Donatello looking worried. Donatello, I love to draw upward furrowed eye ridges a little bit. Sometimes one eye is slightly wider than the other because I'm hearing Barry Gordon's voice acting in my head. And Leonardo has a little bit more of a pure expression as well, a little bit more serious and stoic, but when his sword is broken or something like that happens, that's when I love, I'm kind of giddy over letting Leonardo kind of freak out a little bit in his facial expressions. But anytime that Raph is, here's I guess not really that great an example because he's in the forefront, but anytime that Raph is not speaking but he's present in a panel, I love to kind of draw him just staring at the reader. So if you look at anything that I draw, just look and you'll see a tiny little Raphael. Imagine Rob Paulson's voice acting in your minds when you see it, and you'll just see him kind of going. And it doesn't even matter how far away he is from the front of the panel. So it'll be sometimes very tiny, but exactly. So. I just have so much fun with their facial expressions. That's my absolute favorite thing to draw.
And the animated series right now is streaming on Paramount Plus, so you can revisit it today if you'd like to. So we've got some exclusive preview pages for issue 7. I know for Lisa and I, this series really digs into our nostalgia for the Ninja Turtles.
That's how we got into them in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Kevin, for you, what does it mean to have this specific universe, this truly all ages universe, still kicking around? You got it.
No, I love it, because it was one of those moment times when Pete and I always imagined it as a comic book, and we had the opportunity to work on it and develop it as a cartoon series. It was something that we knew going into it. The series was written to an older audience. This was something that we were writing for a very specific younger audience, and because we were lucky enough to have control over our characters, we were very careful not only with picking out the voices, how the designs look for the characters, some of the changes in the origin, things like the original comic, the Turtles, when I first painted them with in full color, they all had red bandanas. I had Pete's amazing idea, to change the color bandanas because the toy company in the end, it's well, how do you tell them apart? And we're the weapons, duh. And so it changed, but and then the theme song, which we all love. Probably a lot of you know Chuck Lorre is the author of the original theme song, and so having all those pieces come together, and it was a 5-part episode, and it was one of those. I felt like we did the best we could. It was a bit of a Hail Mary, and hoped that it would work, and. Almost 200 episodes later, we're still having such a good time with both versions of the Turtles. We still got to keep the black and white series. We were doing the animated series, and then somewhere in the middle as a live action series. But the fact that this is still out there today, still resonating, and even fans of the 2012 series, one of my favorite, Nickelodeon's 2012 series, which is so much fun. A lot of them was still, the older fans love it. They ease their kids into the 2012 series by having them watch the original series, which is great. So, but I love it. I'm so thrilled the comics back with new stories, original stories, and such a wonderful creative team putting it together.
I wanted to say something too. One of the things about this series that was exciting for me, so for a long time I was an editor at IDW as well, and the Saturday Morning Adventures line kind of came about when we had the G.I. Joe license, so we did the G.I. Joe book. But one of the books I was just honored to edit for many years alongside writing Turtles was Ghostbusters. We had a really good Ghostbusters run. We actually did crossovers with the Turtles. And I have a really good friend in this industry, but a very talented person named Eric Burnham. And so whenever Saturday Morning Adventures came up in the editorial room, it was almost like automatic. Who's going to write this? Eric. Eric is like the 80s guy. He just knows all these voices. He creates these characters in a way that is so authentic. And I know he wishes he was here. He actually texted me and said, I just learned a new term called FOMO. Just never knew that till today. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the hard work Eric does on this series and has done for IDW books over the years. And it's one of those things where I knew when we brought him in, we were going to get a cartoon in comic book form, and we got that.
And he's so fun, and he's so funny, and the fourth wall breaking is just like so satisfying. So by all ages, we mean everybody's gonna love it.
Yeah. We were lucky enough to have Eric on the show to talk to him for a little bit.
Plug.
Thank you, Lise. Yeah. And he was talking about the challenges of bouncing back and forth between the main ongoing series and Saturday morning cartoons. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit, Tom, about like the headspace you have to be in for the ongoing versus any other version.
That is a challenge, and actually that was an early challenge when Kevin and I transitioned to writing the last Ronin, because when you write 100 issues in a row, those people live in your head. I always joke, sometimes I'll be sitting on the couch and be having a memory, and I'm not really sure if it's my memory or a character's memory, because I've just done it for so long. And it's funny that Sarah mentions the voice acting. Writing can be kind of a lonely process sometimes. I have my little home office and I sit in there, and there's times where I'm like, I gotta go see people, and I'll go out with my wife and daughter and take my laptop, and I'll be sitting on the couch writing, and then I start to say things out loud as I'm writing, and then my wife is like, who are you talking to? And I was like, Casey Jones. It just works better when I can say it out loud. But when we switched to Ronin, our ongoing line is what I always call like our Avengers book. It's kind of that teen plus book where there's violence and there's some adult themes, but also we don't want to push the envelope too far. We want it to be accessible to more wider demographic. Ronin certainly is much more mature, but that also requires a kind of a different voice. And so when I wrote a full script with Kevin for the first issue, and Kevin said, this is really good, and it would be great in the ongoing, but this has to be different. This has to feel different. We have to pull back on Mikey's voice. We have to kind of find this, the Ronin's voice. And at first I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but my favorite thing about working on Ronin, despite all the acclaim and the success and all that, was that for me, Ronin ended up being, after working on Turtles for 10 years, almost like going back to Turtle school. It was really interesting for me to there's a reason this guy is the living legend that he is. He has such, the instincts are amazing to me that Kevin has. He has little ideas sometimes, and he really took the control when we went to Ronin. He became the Batman. I was the Robin in the passenger seat, and it was just really fun, actually very fun for me to kind of have to relearn the Turtles in a whole new way. But what that indicated to me, not just as a writer, that there was still things for me to learn, there's ways to evolve, is that this property is so, I always say it's flexible. Turtles are flexible. You can write a Saturday Morning Adventures, you can write a Ronin, you can write everything in between. You can have a Mutant Mayhem. I worked on some video games. We had little different voices for the video games, but at its core, it was always Turtles, and people who are fans, old and new, find their way back to it, whatever voice you're using. So it's not only fun to create, but I think you guys can agree, as a fan, what other property really has such a diverse line of stories and I think just accessibility, yeah. And it's it's something that's really, if you think about this, if you, like Gavin said, you think, oh, there's no more stories to tell, but there's always more stories to tell with these guys, always, and that's the fun thing about it, and there's always new ways to do it, so, and we're just getting started, and not just us, like you said, this is probably the best time almost right now to be a Turtles fan, because there's a lot of things coming down the pike that are really exciting.
Woo! Yes.
We have some super rad crossovers going on. We're already up to number 5 of the Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter. It's going to be on sale November 8th from Paula Lore, Ariel Metal, Sarah Myer on colors, Ed Dukeshire. And let's see that exclusive preview page. And who was that? M. Bison. Iconic.
Yeah. Everyone take a snap of that. This is exclusive. This is for, the eyes
Your
here
eyes first.
I mean, this is such an iconic moment, Shredder versus M. Bison. Sarah, you got to talk a little bit about getting your colors on this page.
Oh yeah. Okay. So for this series, TMNT versus Street Fighter, first of all, I laugh when I read Eric's scripts, and I laugh when I read Paul's scripts as I'm like drawing or coloring. I'm just like smiling and laughing as I'm like reading along. I'm really enjoying it. And for this series, I absolutely love Ariel's art as well. It's been amazing working with that team. So whenever I get the inks and I'm reading the script, I try and think about what moments have to be most impactful based on the script, and then I also kind of try to balance that with like how Ariel's laid out the page and think about where I want to direct the eye. So objectively, that's what I'm thinking about as a colorist. But in general, like I really wanted to make this whole series feel like you're watching a freeze frame from Rocky or one of the most intense MMA fights that you've ever seen, and just like crank up basically the contrast and the lens flare in a way. I wanted to give it a really sort of specific stylized look. So you're seeing a lot of backlighting for, letting the line art where Ariel's got that awesome like shape of the blood spray and like I guess spittle in a way flying out of Shredder's mask as he's being punched by Bison, but that amazing silhouette that he's got there in the center page, in the center panel, like absolutely that was one of those moments where I thought that has to be, I gotta like step back and not put any color there, you know what I mean, let like his silhouette show through so that we see that action. But it's just been so much fun coloring that series, the action, the characters, the way that they're grabbing each other, grappling, the body language, and the musculature that Ariel renders is so much fun to shade too. I love to sort of put emphasis on bulging muscles or deltoids or whatever if a character's like pulling back for a punch. That's like one of my favorites. So
I'm her model.
Having so and I asked Tom, I'm like, I need like pictures of flexing guns, and basically Tom sends them over, and I'm like, that's perfect.
She doesn't know it's AI art.
Vincenzo, I noticed you whispering to your neighbors. Can you share what you said with the class, please, if you want to?
He's the one that got busted.
I did some variant covers for this series.
Yes.
And I was really excited because both Street Fighter and Ninja Turtles are for me the most important brands in the world. But the most difficult thing was that the editor asked me, yes, did the cover, but a huge connecting cover, one big image. I was like, oh, okay. And I realized 5 covers with full of characters. I asked something easy, 2 characters per cover? No. I don't know how many characters I did. But it's a huge piece. And I'm totally crazy because I decided to draw them on paper, not just digital. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I asked to color that covers by myself. So I was a suicide. My artist table number is age 20.
Age 20.
Go and see those pages, some of his work in person. It's incredible to see those inks out on the table.
I have the full image.
So coming up on October 25th, we have the 4th issue in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Stranger Things, one of my favorite series going on at IDW right now, from Cameron Chittock, Pharaoh Pei, Sophie Dodgson, and Russ Wooten. Look at these process art pages, this preview from Pharaoh's art. Like, going back to that Mirage era, it just hits something unique, something super special in my soul. Kevin, what is it like to see this era brought back and to be clashed with Stranger Things?
Yeah.
No, it was a fantastic idea. At first, when they mentioned it, I was, it was even my wife and I, we loved Stranger Things as a series, and when they made the connections, like the timing was the Turtles in 1984, and the original series taking place in 1984. And I started seeing the connections of how it could come together, and certainly, again, Tom talked about the flexibility of the Turtles, and you could see ways of making it work. But when the writers and the artists, when they took the direction, they said, we're going all the way back to 1984 in the styling, and seeing some of the original pages, same thing. I think the artists went right back to had done digital mostly in the past, but was doing physical artwork in the process of trying to curate that beaky look they had during those early years. And so, yeah, definitely a perfect throwback and a perfect style for that series. It works on every level for me. Yeah.
And in black and white, I love it so much. And that's what's so exciting about getting the director's cut out on November 22nd. I love the director's cuts when we get them. I guess this question is for all the artists up there, but what does it mean for you? Like, Ninja Turtles is one of the few franchises that can, put out a director's cut when a run ends. What does it mean for you guys to see your work presented in this fashion? Gavin.
Oh, I haven't happened to me yet.
I know, but like, what would it theoretically mean to you?
I mean, it would be very cool to see an artist edition. I mean, you can come check out the actual pages at my table, A03. I mean, I think, yeah, it'd be really cool if anyone from IDW is in here wants to take it. So, yeah, it's really cool to see this as a fan, though. Of course, the Ronin director's cuts. I picked up all of those. It's nice to see, Escorza. It's nice to see your work in black and white. It's always a pleasure.
No, I think it's funny. It's interesting. For the many years I've been around, I get to work with a lot of different artists. To me, it's the two coolest things in one: seeing another artist studio, so you can see, got it, need it, stuff that they have on their walls, but the things that it's usual suspects, sort of wall, the Kaiser Soze. You see all the bits and pieces and the things that you draw this energy from. But also, to me, it was the process of learning, because when I grew up, there was no Kubert school, there was no kind of thing. So until you saw an actual original art page and saw the process of what they did and how they put those pages together, like, one of my favorite lines that IDW puts together is the Artisan series, because you see that artwork is scanned from the original pages that the artist spilled coffee on, that they whited out stuff. You saw the mistakes, you saw the blemishes, you saw what they had to do to make those pages work, and that's how we learn, and that's how we teach each other, by looking at the stuff. When I first met the Escorza brothers, my first question was, all right, because people ask the same thing to Pete and I when we were drawing together, because we both write and we both draw, so we would literally pass pages back and forth. So when I met the Escorza, I said, all right, so does one of you pencil and one of you ink, or you do this stuff, and they just kind of do it all at the same time.
Like literally on the same page simultaneously. It's crazy.
It's just watching the magic, watching the Escorza brothers work, period, is just the most fantastic thing in the world. Well, again, I know when I talk about Ronin a bit, but that's...
You know what a writer's director's cut looks like? It's pictures of my keyboard with, coffee.
If you love DVD extras, you're going to love director's cuts. So get your pre-orders in order. Do not sleep on this. If you're a person who needs to catch up on all things IDW, maybe it's been a minute since you've read it, or maybe you're just a person who likes a reference, who likes a text, we've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles source book, which is covering IDW's entire Ninja Turtles run.
Yeah, like the most notable events, locations, characters. Tom, what is it like for you to have someone revisit the earlier days of your run and represent it?
Honestly, it helps me because sometimes I forget. The funny thing is, it's funny that Vincenzo was saying that he took on that amazing and difficult mission to do all those characters. I don't know why he would do that after working with me on Armageddon game, where I brought 8 billion characters in one little series. I thought, hey, you never want to do that again. But honestly, it was during Armageddon game while we were working on that, and we did bring in some new characters, but we were tying up the bow and ribbons, or however you say that, knots on old plot lines. And as we were doing that, we at IDW were saying, we really need a source book. We need something that we can even look at as creators to go back and see all the stuff we've done, because there's just been so many things that have happened over the years. But, again, I'm always a Turtles fan first, so not only am I excited as a creator to have this as reference, but as a fan, what Patrick has worked with us before when we were on the road to 100. He did the kind of like the summary and an interview summary with all the creators over the years that we included in the back of, I guess that was technically like a director's cut too. But he's just a wonderful talent, and he's amazing at finding a way to just archive all this stuff and then present it in an entertaining fashion. So I'm really looking forward to this, not only as a fan, and I think everybody's going to really dig it. And it's kind of like pulling out that photo album and looking at the pictures of your family over the years. When my daughter's 20 now, but sometimes I like to see when she was 2. And so I think it's the same idea. I do want to do one thing though, because Sarah is always so nice. And Sarah, what's your booth number?
Oh, G26.
We don't all do just Turtles. Sarah has a book called Monstrous that is autobiographical. Is one of the most wonderful graphic novels I've ever read. It's the most amazingly honest.
All right, it's time. We got to talk the last Ronin 2 re-evolution.
Yes.
We have a new and improved on-sale date of February, so call up your shops, get your pre-orders in immediately. The whole gang is back together for this one.
Yes, we definitely got the band back together, and it was an interesting process because much like I go back to the first issue of the Turtles, Peter and I never planned for a second series, and when Tom and I, when I showed Tom the story that Pete and I wrote in 1987 after we were on the road to issue 100. And I said, I think it's time we take a hard look at something like this. The original story written in 87 was set 30 years in the future, so we looked at it 2018, which was a year after it was originally set. So we took the key components of that, and as Tom was finishing up some of the writing, finishing all the writing on the last couple issues, because even the last couple issues leading up to issue 100 were 40 pages long. And so I went through and I expanded it and came with the title Last Ronin, and so when we finally got clear of that, we got to sit down and really take a look at it and said, this is what we're going to adapt into this story. As we got into the Ronin verse, with this incredible team, not only I had to bring my good friend from Maine, Ben Bishop, in as one of the flashback artists, which is what we designed. But I had the incredible experience at a show down in Lamole to meet one half of the Escorza brothers team and get to know their artwork, and they came and did a few projects for us in heavy metal and just blew us away completely, to the point where Tom and I were looking for a series artist after one that we wanted to work with had to drop out. But my wife actually pointed out, Isaac gave her this wonderful drawing when we were in the Mole, and my wife said, what about these guys? They can really draw. Reached out, and we were just lucky. They just finished the project, and they were able to join the team. And that was the best of all worlds, because it was unplanned. We were able to put together the best people, the best team, and then we went on this adventure together, because those pages and that story was written as we did it. We had an outline, had a series. This is very much, I tell Tom a number of times going through the process, this is very much how Peter and I worked. Originally was would write an outline. We knew the beginning, middle, and end, basic pieces, and then when I started going through the layouts and doing the layout process, which they actually just came out of the show talking about director's cuts. You can see a director's cut that shows a lot of the original designs and stuff of what was done to tell that story, to bring that story to life. It's one of the things, Ben and I have worked together before. We were doing a series called Drawing Blood, but with the Escorza brothers, I don't speak any Spanish, or very little Spanish. They don't speak a lot of English. And so it was all communication through the artwork. And so it was like, when I was designing, when we wrote a scene, and this is what the scene looks like in this futuristic city, I would do a sketch of it and send it to Isaac and Esau and say, this is where it's going to set, and then here's the layout, here's the design, here's the storyboards. And then we just sort of sat back and watched the magic, sort of what these guys would send us in, and we'd just be like, wow. It was such a great thing. So the process of going through all that, we can talk about it a little bit more, but we never planned for a sequel, but we really fell deeply in love with the whole Ronin verse, Tom and I, and so we had this idea for the ending that became the final page of issue 1. And saw an opportunity to go back to the Roninverse in 2 different ways. One was, moments like The Lost Years, which you've seen, which was a great adventure, sort of prequel, sequel, prequel kind of thing, leading up to issue 1, page 1 of Last Ronin, the first series. And then, and it was hard to then really think of what we wanted to say in Last Ronin 2, because at absolute minimum, we tend to try our best to make it at least as good and hopefully even better. And with Tom and I, it's always been story first, and we took a lot of time. And that's why we pushed it a couple months, because it is we wanted it to be perfect. So we were hoping to have the first issue in December. We appreciate you guys waiting, but when you see it in November, we're going to see some previews here. But it's going to be worth the wait, I believe.
Boom! Previews, process pages.
You may bask in the glory of these preview pages.
This is why they don't let the Escorzas out very often.
You gotta give them a day.
So Esau and Isaac, can you talk a little bit about what we are going to get from you in The Last Ronin 2? Obviously, a lot.
First of all, thank you for being here, guys. I see your faces, and I want to say thank you to all of you. And thanks to the team that we have here on the table. They have been working with us for the whole process, and especially to Kevin, who believed in us at the beginning. It's a weird privilege to be working with him. It's like a dream come true. Even though we have this language barrier and the distance barrier because we're in Mexico, they're here. He has surprised us in the way they humble us and all the availability he has to help us through the process, with us in the process. Working on the Ronin 2. We're trying to do something better than the first one in every single way possible. That's our intention for this one. It has been quite a ride to do this. He loves to draw the turtles now. All of you who know him, you know he prefers to draw the turtles than drawing anything else. Any human character or anything that resembles a human, he prefers to draw a turtle. So they're hoping that you like what they're working with.
Oh, yeah.
Saying that he will also like to thank Delgado because he has been complaining about all the work that they're sending to him. So he has personally told him, like, please stop adding so much detail in your pages because it's complicated to me to actually draw. So he's saying that it's a good thing that the project got delayed for 2 months because you will notice the details and Delgado will be pissed off. So.
Is it Lewis that's complaining?
Yes.
No, when I first got the pages in, I was looking at it, I was like, oh my god. Yeah, we said because Lewis who's not here, but he's been with us through the whole first series, and many other, he does a lot of some other IDW books. Tom worked with them for a while. But yeah, I mean, I would be incredibly intimidated going into the Escorza Brothers pages and kind of color, but he kills it every issue.
Yeah, and Luis, not just on this book, there's many books he obviously works at IDW, over the years has probably been IDW's most unsung hero on many books, because books tend to run a little behind sometimes, and when you have a colorist that talented and that fast, that reliable, and kind of buys you back days when he gets the pages. It's amazing, and he's a person in this industry that there's just times I don't. He should be one of the biggest superstars, not just for his work, but just for his work ethic. It's amazing to watch what he does, and he's a really nice guy too. He's funny.
We have more exclusive preview pages from the last Ronin 2. Snap some photos there. This is the sequel. There's got to be a lot of pressure with doing the last Ronin 2. I guess this is for the whole gang, but how do you rise to that pressure?
Steal it from everybody. A lot of it came from a lot of inspiration of different periods of comics that I love, New Mutants and just so many different historical parts. But I want to point out the new designs. Look, Tom and I came up with the names of them, what we generally wanted them to look. Even, Tom and I, just to give you, if you don't know the origin behind the names of the turtles, is we went back and forth, this to this. We had input from lots of different friends and colleagues, and then Tom one day was saying something to the effect of, wouldn't it be great if one was called Number One, like in Star Trek, Number One, engage. And I said, there's something really cool there. I said, what if we took that concept and said to Casey Marie Jones, who names them, she wouldn't want to name them one above the other. To her, they were all number one in her heart. So we said, well, let's find different names for number one in different languages. So basically, Odingi, Moja, and Uno are all number one in different languages. So they're all equal. There's 2 males, 2 females. But then we turned this whole pile of stuff over to Ben Bishop, who did the designs for these. I want to talk a little bit about
yes.
He really killed it. He did an amazing job.
Kill the turtles, and then it was a dream to get to bring some back and be forgiven for that. So basically people ask what was the direction? What was the direction? And basically, from day one, it was the big CGC signing when we were talking about this stuff, and it was can we make them different enough without bandanas, in their silhouettes and in their shapes, and that would lead into very different personalities, of course, and so. That was the main objective right out of the gate, and we started talking about different markings and different species, and Kevin sent me some digital file of a poster of 300,000 different turtle species, and he was like, go. And so I basically absorbed it all. I looked at it for a minute, and then I didn't want to be tied down to one particular species per turtle, so I let it all kind of just sink into my subconscious and just had fun drawing. And I ended up drawing 12 different turtles, both baby and teenage, because Lost Years, if you don't know, 5 issues in a one-shot, but each issue is 3 years apart. So I had to design what they looked like at 3, and then 6, and then 9, all the way up until they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we can kick into re-evolution. And so that was a ton of fun, and then they had a particular look for the Lost Day special, which was their first time above ground, and in their disguises, and I wasn't going to do, the fedora and the trench coat. So I think here in the future, you find what you can get. And the response has been amazing, and I think a lot of that is because we're not reinventing the turtles, and replacing them or rebooting them. It's really all about the legacy, and it's about the respect and the honor and the reverence that they have for who came before them, in the same way that even though a lot of those turtles might have been dead in the Escorza scenes in the first book, they were always there. The brothers were always there with Mikey, and they're writing this in such a way that the original turtles are always there, and then these guys have the challenge of living up to that. And then I also knew that when I was done, I'd be handing them off to these guys, and they're just killing it. And I love seeing all the variant covers with every artist doing their interpretations of these guys. It still doesn't feel real. Look at that.
Speaking of variant covers,
Issue 1.
Issue 1 variant covers. Get your These are on the internet already. You can still take pictures of them. The next slide is going to be the first look at the covers for issue number 2.
Also, Artist Alley A4.
Yes, please. So, Can we talk a little bit about what makes the perfect variant cover, or any cover?
Especially for Last Ronin 2.
Yeah.
You know, a knockout.
I like. Obviously, I love seeing other people draw these new turtles, but it is great to see this variety after so many covers for the first book, right? And you saw a lot of ghost turtles and then Ronin in the front, but there's all this like new material that people can pull from, and especially once we get started and the first issue comes out, and then all those artists are catching up. I think they're going to have a lot of ideas, and just because of the look of these guys being so different, the variety is going to be really cool.
I think also that one of the things that I've been really happy about, I was honestly petrified to do new turtles. When Kevin goes, let's throw 4 little turtles as an Easter egg in the back of the Ronin and see what happens with that. Do you really want to do that? I'm not sure if you want to do that. But the thing is that, like Kevin said, it all came together naturally in the sense that when we started working on names, it wasn't hard. And those were the names. And then when Ben's designs came in, I looked at them and go, I love them. These are what we want. And and as we started to discuss their personalities and how they would be, like you said, pay homage to the original Turtles, but be their own Turtles, their own personalities. And one of the things we've discussed at length was what is a teenager like in 2023? It's very different than I was a teenager in 1984. And I think kids today are 10 times tougher than we were because they've got 10 times more things to deal with, stimuli constantly, and it creates kind of a different dynamic in the modern reality. So we said they can't just be happy. There's things that we deal with now: social anxieties. There's autism. There's depression. There's just all kinds of stuff that kids these days. Isolation that they have to deal with, we never had to deal with, and I wanted to bring that into these characters. Okay, when I really sat down to make sure that these are new Turtles, and what happened is as we were writing Lost Years and Lost Day, Ben and Channing Gallant, those guys, they did such a great job of kind of like conveying those personalities and making them unique, making them their own Turtles, and you can see that in this artwork. That these are characters that are alive. And that's what's making this exciting for me, because now I'm glad we did this. But 2 years ago I would have said, I don't know, should we do this? Is it almost sacrilege to create new Turtles? But this is the time to do this, and I'm really hoping that fans are as excited as I am, and Kevin and all of us, about bringing these Turtles into the world, because this is their time, and it's a really fun book to work on.
I just want to say, not that fun. No, I was going to say it was really fun working from Ben's design. That's my bottom cover on the bottom left there. Looks good. Thanks. I was trying to make it like kind of what you're saying. It's like a new pair of Turtles, and like we're bringing them back. Like I got a chance to do a cover for Lost Years, and I was kind of pitching this as like a companion sister cover to it, because it was Mikey with the brothers and Splinter behind him, and it was raining, but it was in a dark place. But with this one, I wanted Mikey kind of looking over the new gang, with like it's like a new dawn.
And you have it very, very bright. I thought of Lost Years like that, like because Ronin was so dark. And
right.
I mean, of course, some of the scenes in Lost Years are very, very dark, but the stuff I was drawing, the way that I don't know if you guys have read it, but there's a whole new layer for these turtles, and it's full of life. And so it's kind of like this rebirth, because every ending is a beginning, but you can probably tell something bad might happen in Last Ronin 2.
So,
but for now, it's bright. The future is bright.
Do we have some Mutant Mayhem fans in the house?
The Art of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is on sale now. The film itself is streaming on Paramount Plus, and the physical release is on December 12th, in time for my birthday, FYI.
Yeah.
We are eager for that disc, and we're loving that book. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone who worked on the film here, right now?
I think that would be pretty
Wouldn't that
cool.
be nice?
Folks, give it up for director Jeff Rowe.
How's it going?
I'm so glad you could join. Come on in.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, Jeff, when you first started wading into the ooze, what from the existing Turtleverse did you immediately want to draw from?
It's so interesting. Right before I started on the movie, I rewatched this Netflix documentary called "The Toys That Made Us." That was all about the original. Yeah. Like I'm 37, so it's like I started collecting those when I was 4 years old, and that was for me as a kid. That was just like a gateway to another world, and the designs were so fun and inventive and irreverent, and my parents didn't understand why I liked them, and that just made it cooler, and there was something just so playful about them that I didn't want to draw away from. Like I just remember seeing video of the pizza shooter van and that little plastic disc, and just like I know the exact weight of it. I can feel it in my hand still. It's so that was probably a big jumping off point.
And were you examining the figures? Like what was the grossest and weirdest figure? What do we need to replicate for this show?
We actually got to go to Steve Varner's studios, and he showed us a bunch of sculpts of the original toys, and there were some wild things back then, but they were elaborate and detailed and loved, and there was just this spirit of like the people making this were having so much fun, and were just trying to make themselves happy and make each other laugh. And we wanted to have that same ethos and spirit carry through in the film.
No, I think, and I think you did that so epically, brilliantly, in every level. It's like, so I felt like the first time I was invited up to see some of the footage, and was offered this really wonderful cameo part, which I'm still makes me emotional.
He's a voice in the film. It's great. He crushes it.
They were showing me some of the designs, because I've seen like little bits and pieces like you, when they actually sort of pulled back the curtain and I got to see it. It was just like, you guys are having some serious fun on this project. With the design of the project, the different people you were able to bring into the voices to help, ready for Lee, I love your vibe. No, but to me it was when you started showing some of the animated clips, because so much of it was coming together with this incredible studio, and I want you to talk about, because I know you did spend a lot of time on the designs. When you start seeing this design, which is this beautifully weighted, organic style, which took me back, I feel there's elements of back when Pete and I were first doing the comic book, because we had no clue what we were doing and tried to figure out a path, and it was sort of scratchy and raw, but you captured this essence, which took it all the way back and then took it so much further, and the lighting and just... I think I watched about 10 minutes of footage, and I'm like, have you guys started on the sequel yet? Because you better start on the...
That's a great question.
We're hard at work. It's going to be great, I promise.
Going back to those like original Mirage stories, though, like it gets gritty, it gets weird, it gets wild right away. Like the leash is like so long with the Ninja Turtles. And I love how you decided to lean into the teenageriness of the Ninja Turtles. We get from the book not just how hyper detailed everything is, but how incredibly thoughtful everything is, from like the stickers on the nunchucks and everything. Like, can you talk a little bit about building that teen aesthetic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we just we had these teenage voice actors. We were leaning into the teenage aspect, which was really interesting to me because I think as a kid growing up with it, I had this like distorted view of what a teenager was based on the way the Ninja Turtles were performed. So we were trying to find like a visual North Star for the film in the way that like Spider-Verse wanted to make a movie look like a living comic book, where like what's us? Ninja Turtles has been comics, it's been a TV series, it's been a live action movie, like what is our thing? And we picked teenage drawings, like the sketches you do when you're 15, 16 years old and you haven't had formal art training yet, and you don't have that voice in your head that says, like, that's not how you draw that. We just wanted to keep it alive and expressive.
Does that resonate with anybody else on the panel? Yes, Sarah?
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
First of all, my teenage self, I'm 37 too, so about the
Nice.
same time. Yes, twins. So I'd like to thank you for making Donatello an anime fan, because I never would have guessed that it when I was in the theater and I heard him make that reference to like, guys, I've got an anime club here. Look, it's Attack on Titan. I was like, what is happening? So I have to ask you, sir.
Yes.
Is that an Evangelion Unit 1?
Yes.
On his phone case?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
That's my favorite anime of all time. Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, he's loaded with references. Donnie was like, in high school, I spent most of my time alone at home on a computer trying to illegally download episodes of Dragon Ball Z that weren't available in the United States yet. Yeah. LimeWire sometimes. Yeah, it depends. But so it's like we just wanted to make Donnie like that. That's how his intelligence and fandom expresses itself. And I guess we tapped into something relatable.
Jeff,
Yes.
first thing I noticed that you did awesome in these designs is that all the weapons have the screw holes in them.
Oh yeah.
The rack, I love that.
They were based on like the plastic, that little like punched out solid orange color. Yeah.
I recognized it immediately.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome, yeah.
Here we have some fan faves. We've got Bebop and Rocksteady. And it must be a thrill to tackle these icons. Jeff, did you have any guideposts or any rules for yourself for how far from the original characters you could take your interpretations?
Not really. I think we just wanted to really push it to be as far as possible. And there's things if you look at Baby Bebop and Baby Rocksteady here, I saw those drawings and they made me laugh inside. I'm like, they're so funny and silly and great. Why change it? Why try to make it better or make it more cute? It elicited a genuine emotional reaction. So it's let's just commit to the thing that sparks when we see it.
It's one of the things I just want to point out too, that one of the many things that you took story-wise and evolved, that you and Seth and Evan and you, the team, the writers that brought it together, just doing something so cool as making them all from the same mutagen batch.
Oh yeah.
It just created this whole different vibe that I just loved. It was sort of because we added mutants later because it was the way it was developed. But so that's a great scene when they sort of first meet all the rest of the mutants. It's oh my god, there's more of us. It was
yeah.
Just we're a family.
We're related, cousin. Yeah.
I love you, Rob.
Yeah. I always wanted that. Yeah.
It was really wonderful things that you added to the story. You built on the Turtle universe. You really went in, staked your claim, took your favorite bits, and took it further than I would ever imagine, and it was just brilliantly, perfectly wonderful, and just I love it so much.
Thank you so much.
So it's great to hear that Kevin loves it. But when you were putting it together and you were deviating here and there with the turtles, I mean, did you have some stress about presenting it to Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. I was terrified. I've
been there.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just saying outside. I would have been so sad if you didn't like it. So I'm glad it made you proud.
That's perfect.
And Kevin, there was no nerves about seeing how this would deviate? I mean, you've been through several reimaginings, but...
The Archie comics, by the way, are wild and wonderful.
Well, for us, we were lucky. We grew up in a world of comics, the kind of stuff we were reading. You'd have, say, a writer and artist that was working on Batman. They would do a run for, say, 12 issues or whatever. And there'd be a new writer and artist coming on and taking it further down the road. So you're used to seeing different people adapt comics that we were reading, what we enjoyed differently. Some you like more, some you liked a little less. With the Turtles universe, we were very lucky from the go. We had the original black and white comics, which was Peter and I's original version. And then when we worked on the animated series, we were able to adapt them specifically how we wanted to see them. So I felt like we had this multiverse before there was multiverses long before Turtles had multiverses, and they're more prevalent now. But we had, the black and white comics, we had the animated, and then put, Steve Barron and Jim Henson's movie in the middle, and that was kind of a middle of both. But I love to see what other people, that's my favorite part of working with other people creatively, what they see in your ideas, places you never imagined. They look at it from a different angle. And Tom, he was saying he's been there. When he presented the first idea for the new IDW universe series, and he brought up this reincarnation idea, I said, first thing fans are going to do is going to poop a purple Twinkie 6 miles long. But I said, if they love it and embrace it the way I see what you're doing with this series, you picked bits and pieces from different universes that you loved about Turtles, and you're leaning more on the 2000 series and put that into what worked. And so to me, this is just, it's the best. The journey's been so amazing, so awesome, so incredible to see that, something like Mutant Mayhem resonates so well with so many fans. People come out to the movie and they go like, "Did you like the movie?" And I'm like, "No, what a treat!" And I can't wait to see where you guys are taking it next. I know you got more in store for us all from Mutant Mayhem universe. So.
I also can't wait to see where we're taking it. We're figuring that one out.
Jeff, is it totally wild that there are now action figures of your characters being played with by children, but also hoarded by 40-year-olds like myself?
It brings me so much joy to walk into a Target, and it just gives me a little bit of the feeling that I had when I was a kid, and the first live action movie came out, and they were just everywhere, and I think that's where I first discovered them, was in the toy aisle. Before I ever saw them on TV, before anything else, I was just on a shelf at a Toys R Us. I was like, what is this weird, wonderful, beautiful, amazing thing? I have to have it, and I have to have everything on the back of this box. It's so cool. And to hopefully recreate that experience of wonder for kids today is really exhilarating. And
it's funny, I have to ask you, because when Peter and I the toys first came out in 1988, we didn't actually believe they were going to be in the toy store. So we went down to Springfield, down to KB Toys, which was the chain at the time. And so as we're walking to the back of the store, to the action figure section, just as we arrived there, this mom is dragging this young boy out of the aisle saying, "No, I'm not buying you one of those stupid Ninja Turtles." What have we done? Fast forward to this summer, when the movie came out, it's funny, I was going into Target in San Diego for socks, and a couple of Turtle fans are coming out, and they had bags of the new toys, and they go, "Did you come to get the toys?" I'm like, "I didn't know they were out." Beeline to the action figure aisle.
He was looking for turtle socks.
What a treat.
This was the literal best, and we cannot believe it's already time to wrap it up. I'm so full of turtle love right now. Can we, the fastest thing we've ever done, zip down the row one more time, especially for our artists who are tabling, and share your tables one more time? We can go left to right.
Yeah, start.
Or right to left.
F12 for the Escorza.
F12.
F12.
A4 for Van Bishop.
G26 for Sarah Myer.
Table number.
H20.
A03, I just want to say real quick, last year at this panel I was sitting in the back of the room, so this has been awesome.
I think you guys sunk my battleship.
Yeah, I'm doing going to be an hour signing. We're doing an exclusive print at IDW, so we'll be at the IDW booth for the next hour, and then it'll be 8:44 for the rest of the afternoon. So come by and say hi, and look forward to seeing you then.
So thank you, Jeff, for being our surprise guest. Thank you to our illustrious panelists. Thank you, IDW. Thank you, Nickelodeon, Paramount. Do not disappear. We are going to do a photo. We've been Brad and Lisa Gullickson, comicbookcouplescounseling.com. Thank you so much.
And there you go. Are you still there? Are you still listening? Have you made it to the outro?
Congratulations.
Again, massive thanks to the panelists for really bringing it to that conversation. Huge round of applause for Greg Katzman for setting everything up and for setting us on the path to success. Thank you to IDW, Nickelodeon, and Paramount for allowing us to moderate.
It truly was a thrill and an honor, and we just want to do it all over again. It was so fun.
And thanks to everyone who showed up to that panel. It was a packed house, and as you can hear, they were really engaged with the conversation. And afterwards, several of them came up to us and thanked us throughout the whole day, which was crazy and wonderful.
I love thinking about the Ninja Turtles in terms of essentiality. Like, what has to be in a Ninja Turtle story to make it a Ninja Turtle story? Do they have to live in secret? Do they have to be ninjas? Do they have to be brothers? You know, like all of those things. Do they have to be male? Do they have to be whatever? And and then of course I turn it on myself. Like, what is essential to make me? Like, what about me can you take away and I would still be the same person? Like, I would love to think that I need everything about me to be me. I need Brad Gullickson. I need comic book couples counseling. I need to have pretended I was allergic to chocolate all the way for third grade just so I could get special attention. I think, like, all of those little details are
that
me.
Stopped, by the way.
I'm not allergic to chocolate. I just needed a little, like, I just wanted to feel special.
But that was the thing you did when you were in elementary school.
Yeah. But, like, for me, I think the lesson I take from the Ninja Turtles is a lot of the things that you cling to that make you yourself are actually ephemeral. The thing that makes you you is beautiful and ineffable and simpler than we give it credit for, in like a beautiful simplicity.
I love that. And it will cause me to look inward and go like, well, what is essential about Brad Gullickson? When talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what's essential to them for me might be different than what it is for somebody else.
Yes.
Which is also what makes it exciting in the course of all these various adaptations. Is like we all have our favorite turtles, just the way that we all have our favorite interpretations of Batman and Superman and the like, right?
And they're all valid.
And I think for me, it's really simple regarding the Ninja Turtles. It's in the title. Teenagers, mutants, ninjas, and turtles. Like,
but Mutant Mayhem, they're not really ninjas.
Well, I mean, it's a little different. The word ninja there is more malleable, is more flexible in the Mutant Mayhem world, right? And I don't think they break it. I think they bend that word, but they don't break it. For me. Might not be the case for some others, but that's what's exciting about the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So next week, we kick off November with 2 episodes. We have our ultimate Jana and the Impossible Monsters conversation with Laura and Chris Somney. We get into every detail of that book. On Halloween, on the 31st, the new deluxe hardcover from Oni Press is out. You need to pick it up. There's a quote on the back from Comic Book Couples Counseling, and it's an amazing collection, and it's the best presentation of that story so far.
It's literally a treasure.
And you need to read it because we are going to spoil the whole thing in that episode. That episode operates like our Dan Slott conversation around Silver Surfer or our conversation with Daniel Warren Johnson about Do a Powerbomb. We dissect the whole thing. Then, following on the heels of that episode, we will have a conversation with Junie Ba talking about his new book from TKO, Mobilis, My Life with Nemo, which is absolutely one of the best original graphic novels of the year, and we will be talking about it in our best of episodes for sure. And if you have not been going to the Comic Book Couples Counseling website, I really want to encourage you to do so. We've dropped several interesting articles this past week. We talked to Todd McFarlane about the 10 best Spawn comics. Yes, Todd McFarlane gave us his 10 best Spawn comics, and they are probably not the books that you think they are. And we had a conversation with Howard Chaykin and Michael Stradford talking about the new Fargo adaptation, and we had a conversation with James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons talking about their new Skybound series, Dracula, done in partnership with Universal Pictures. And that book is rad.
Dracula sucks blood. And do you know what also sucks, Brad?
What?
The fact that we have to end this episode. I wish it could go on forever, but it can't. Other people have other things to do.
Okay.
So where can our listeners send their words of affirmation to you?
You can find me and my Orcs in Space profile pic on most social medias at MouthDork. If you have words of affirmation for our logo, you can send them to Aaron Prescott at A Cool Hand Fluke. And if you have some words of affirmation for our radical banner art and show poster, send them to Karen Charm at Karen_X-Men fan. Lisa, where can our listeners send their words of affirmation to you?
I'm always accepting words of affirmation at Sidewalk Siren on Instagram and Twitter. If you'd like to spend more quality time with us, you can subscribe to us on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, Google, Apple Podcasts, or whatever app you prefer. We're everywhere. If you'd like to get exclusive, you can join our Patreon, where you'll get more content, including weekly bonus episodes.
If you'd like to reach out and touch us electronically, you can email the podcast, cbccpodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website, comicbookcouplescounseling.com, or follow us on all the socials at CBCC Podcast.
You can give us the gift of 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and if you'd like to do an act of service, we'd really appreciate it. Why not write a review of the show while you're there?
Yes, please.
We are fluent and receptive in all 5 love languages. It really warms our hearts and helps the pod.
So until next time, friends, keep your love tank full.
And your psychic rapport open. You look like you're waiting to say something, and I'm going to say this forever.
Cowabunga.
Oh, you did it anyway. Flipping a little bonus.
Yeah, I'm a cheater, Lisa. I'm a cheater.
Oh, you better not be. You're my spouse.
Not in that way. Lisa, what's your referral?
Am I going first?
Yeah.
Are we keeping that?
Yeah.